Self-trust in the unknown, a guided meditation for calm, confidence, and inner direction. Before we begin, make sure you are somewhere you can rest without needing to drive, respond to anyone, or pay close attention to anything around you. Do not listen to this recording while driving, bathing, cooking, doing anything that requires your attention. Choose a position that feels supported. You can sit in a comfortable chair, rest against a pillow, or lie down if that feels better. If possible, have some water nearby. This recording is an invitation. It is not a test, and it is not something you need to follow perfectly. You remain in control throughout this entire experience. You may keep your eyes open, soften your gaze, or allow your eyes to close. You may move your body, change your position, or pause this recording to stop at any time. If anything I say does not feel comfortable or useful, you do not have to follow it. You can let those words pass and bring your attention back to the room around you. You do not need to make yourself relax. You do not need to clear your mind. You do not need to make anxiety disappear. There is nothing for you to accomplish right now. For these next few moments, you are simply allowing yourself to pause and experience what it feels like to be with yourself without immediate need for an answer. Begin by allowing your eyes to look gently around the room. Even if you plan to close them, keep them open for these few moments. Let your eyes find the door. Notice where you are. Remind yourself, I am here in this room listening to this recording. Now notice 3 things you can see: a color, a familiar object, and notice something that lets you know you are here in the present moment. Become aware of the surface beneath your body. Notice how it supports your weight. You do not have to hold all of it right now. The chair, the bed, the floor is doing some of that work for you. If your feet are touching the floor, press them down gently. Notice the steadiness beneath you. If you are lying down, notice where your legs and back meet the surface supporting you. You are here. You are in control. You can open your eyes, move, pause, or return your attention to the room whenever you choose. Now allow your eyes to remain open, soften, or close. Bring your attention to your breathing. There's no correct way to breathe. You do not need to take especially deep breaths. Simply notice that a breath is already happening. Notice the inhale arriving and notice the exhale leaving. If it feels comfortable, allow the next exhale to become just a little slower. Not forced, not controlled, simply unhurried. Breathe as naturally as possible, allowing the breath to leave. Again, breathing in and gently breathing out. You do not have to make the next breath happen. Your body already knows how to continue breathing. For this moment, you will allow your body to do what it already knows how to do. Somewhere along the way, a part of you learned to stay prepared, to listen closely, to anticipate what needed to happen next, to make sure you were doing everything you were supposed to do. Perhaps that part of you learned to look for instructions. Perhaps It learned that being directed meant you were less likely to forget something, disappoint someone, or do something incorrectly. Perhaps it began to believe that another person needed to confirm the next step before you could trust yourself to take it. You do not need to judge that pattern. You do not need to fight it. You do not need to force it to disappear. It developed for a reason. It was one way your mind tried to help you function, prepare, and succeed. You may gently acknowledge that protective part of you now. You may say to it, "Thank you for trying to protect me. Thank you for helping me stay prepared. You have worked very hard, and you do not have to work quite so hard right now." Again, thank you for trying to protect me. I know you want me to get things right. You do not have to disappear, but you do not have to direct me at every moment. There may even be a time when hearing someone else's direction felt necessary, a time when your mind learned to look outside of you before recognizing what was already inside of you. You do not have to return to the past. You do not have to remember exactly when this pattern began. You do not need to search for a particular memory. You do not need to remember a certain memory. You only need to recognize that this was learned. And because it was learned, you can begin practicing another way of responding. Not all at once, not perfectly, but gradually, one experience at a time. You are practicing the experience of pausing before reacting, listening before doubting yourself, choosing before automatically seeking permission, taking one manageable step without needing to see the entire path. Imagine yourself standing in the beginning of a softly lit path. You do not need to picture it perfectly. You cannot see every turn in this path. You cannot see exactly where it ends. You only see the space directly in front of you. And for this moment, that is enough. The path does not determine that you predict every turn. It does not ask you to guarantee the outcome. It does not require you to know everything before you begin. It simply offers you the next place to put your foot. Notice what it might feel like to let one step be enough. Not the whole plan, not the whole answer, not a guarantee, only the next thoughtful step. The anxious voice may begin asking questions. What if I choose incorrectly? What if I forget something? What if I miss an important detail? What if I do not know what to do? You do not need to argue with that voice. You do not need to prove it wrong. You could notice it and answer it calmly. I hear that I am worried. Worry is trying to prepare me. But worry does not have to make every decision for me. I do not have to know everything to begin. I can make a thoughtful choice with the information I have now. I can pause. I can gather information. I can choose one step. I can adjust when I learn more. A decision does not have to be perfect to be mine. A decision does not have to be permanent to be useful. I'll say that again. A decision does not have to be perfect to be mine. A decision does not have to be permanent to be useful. I am allowed to choose and then evaluate. I'm allowed to learn as I go. Notice whether any part of your body responds to these words. There is no response you need to create. You may notice some softness, resistance. You may notice nothing in particular. Whatever you notice is allowed. You may recognize that your mind sometimes treats uncertainty as if it means danger. But uncertainty and danger are not always the same thing. Not knowing exactly what will happen does not automatically mean something bad is happening. Feeling unsure does not mean you are incapable. Feeling anxious does not mean you have made the wrong decision. Anxiety is a signal. It is not a prediction. It is not proof. It is not an instruction you must always obey. I'm going to say that again. Anxiety is a signal. It is not a prediction. It is not proof. And it is not an instruction you must always obey. Bring to mind a small, ordinary situation in which you sometimes second guess yourself. Choose something manageable. Do not choose the greatest fear or a painful memory or a major life decision. Perhaps it's replying to a message or making a simple plan, completing an everyday responsibility, choosing what to do first, or making a decision you've had to make many times before. Imagine yourself in that ordinary moment. Notice the first flicker of uncertainty. Notice a familiar urge to look outside for immediate confirmation. And now imagine yourself pausing. Feel your feet beneath you. Notice one natural breath. Then ask yourself, what do I know right now? You do not need to know everything. Only notice what you already know. Now ask yourself, what is the next useful step? Not every step, not the perfect step, only the next useful one. Perhaps an answer appears clearly. Perhaps you notice only a small inclination. Perhaps no answer comes immediately. You do not need to force one. A pause is not a failure. Taking time to consider something is not the same as being incapable. And when you're ready, imagine yourself choosing one manageable step. Notice that you do not need to feel completely confident before taking it. You may feel confident. You may feel uncertain. You may feel only 5% more willing. That is still enough to practice. Self-trust is not always a powerful feeling. It is not always a clear inner voice. Sometimes self-trust is a quiet, willingness to try. Sometimes confidence comes after the step, not before it. You are an adult who has already made countless decisions. You have encountered circumstances you could not predict. You have solved problems. You have changed plans. You have learned new information. You have reconsidered choices. And you have continued. You may not remember every example right now. You do not need to. Your life already contains evidence that you can respond to what happens. You are not required to predict every possible outcome. You only need to trust that you can meet the next piece of information when it arrives. You can act and then evaluate. You can decide and then adjust. You can learn without criticizing yourself for not knowing beforehand. You can make a mistake without turning that into something that is a statement about who you are. Receiving support does not mean you are incapable. Asking a question does not mean you cannot trust yourself. You are allowed to seek information without giving away your authority. You can listen to someone's advice and then pause. You can ask yourself, does this fit me? Does this feel useful? What do I believe is right for me now? You can listen to others without abandoning yourself. Now allow these words to become invitations. You do not need to force yourself to believe every sentence completely. Simply notice which words feel possible. I can trust myself one decision at a time. I do not need complete certainty to take a thoughtful step. I can be unsure and still be capable. The anxious voice is information, not instruction. I'm allowed to choose. I'm allowed to reconsider. And I'm allowed to adjust. I can take one step and learn from what happens next. Choose one of these sentences now. Not necessarily the one that sounds the most powerful, but just choose one that feels the most believable. Repeat it quietly in your mind. And if something else comes to mind, if something else pops up as an affirmation, you can repeat that too. Notice what it feels like to offer yourself direction without pressure, to support yourself without controlling yourself, to speak to yourself with confidence and without demanding perfection. Now imagine moving through the next few days with this sentence available to you. You do not need to use it perfectly. Simply imagine remembering it during one small moment of uncertainty. You pause, you feel your feet, you notice one breath, you ask, what do I know right now? Then, what is my next useful step? You choose one step. You allow yourself to step into the moment, just one at a time. You do not need to leave this practice feeling confident or that all your fear and anxiety is resolved. Confidence is not something you must manufacture before you act. Confidence can develop as you take manageable steps and discover that you can respond to what happens next. Now begin bringing your full attention back to the room. Feel the surface supporting you. Notice the weight of your body. Press your feet into the floor or gently move your legs, move your fingers, move your toes. If it feels comfortable, roll your shoulders and gently turn your head from one side to the other. Take one natural breath. You do not need to make it especially deep. Just notice the inhale and allow the exhale to leave. If your eyes are closed, allow them to open now. Take your time. Let the room gradually come back into focus. Notice 3 familiar objects. Notice the light in the room. Notice the day of time. Say quietly out loud in your mind, my name is, I'm here in, it is the morning, afternoon, evening. Before standing, notice how you feel. There's no correct result here. We're just listening and feeling and noticing. If nothing feels noticeably different, that's also okay. You still practiced pausing. You practice observing anxiety without automatically obeying it. And you practice returning to yourself, which is the most important thing that we can learn to do in this lifetime.